you've been around this channel for a couple years, you know that a little over 2 years ago I took the Empire Builder to Seattle and back to Chicago, and took a bunch of video. Well, I'm going back to Seattle, but I'm not staying there. The surprise is probably ruined by the title of the video, but I decided my first major vacation as a full-blown adult would be an Alaskan cruise. So we're heading to Seattle on a Tuesday. We have a couple days in the Seattle area before leaving Friday on the boat, so we'll see what we can see in that time period. I don't really have anything planned. I'm not bringing my camera equipment, so everything you see in this video will be shot exclusively on my phone. Wednesday, we took the Link light rail into the city as our hotel in Linwood was literally across the street from the end of the line. The Link system is interesting in that, as of writing, it consists of 3 separate lines that do not connect to each other anywhere, although that is set to change. It's also interesting that in downtown Seattle it uses an unusually wide and open tunnel. The downtown Seattle Transit Tunnel was built originally for buses. After the startup of light rail service in 2009, it hosted both light rail and bus service. Seattle is also one of the few cities where trolley buses remain in widespread use. The last bus routes through the tunnel were rerouted in 2019. On Thursday, we paid a visit to Snoqualmie Falls and the Northwest Railway Museum. The museum doesn't normally run excursions during the week, but today had a special run for a school field trip. The museum itself is broken up into several different locations. The former Snoqualmie 1890 depot is in downtown, is free to visit, and hosts a gift shop as well as some displays and equipment. This line was built by the Seattle Lakeshore and Eastern, essentially as a way to get back at the Northern Pacific for putting their terminal in Tacoma rather than Seattle. The SLSE was ambitious, hoping to connect to a transcontinental railroad somewhere, utilizing Snoqualmie Pass and running towards Spokane. By 1889, and with only 63 miles built, they shifted their focus instead north, eventually connecting with Canadian Pacific at Sumas and finally gaining access to a transcontinental, albeit not within the U.S. The SLSE would go bankrupt, and the western lines were reorganized into the Seattle and International, which was absorbed by Northern Pacific in 1901. Most of the lines were abandoned by Burlington Northern in 1971, although in 1975 about 5.5 miles were saved for the museum. Southeast of Snoqualmie, between there and North Bend, is the train shed where most of the display pieces sit. After visiting the museum, we decided to check out the pier where we'd be taking the boat, and it just so happens to be right across from where the BNSF Scenic Sub emerges to daylight at North Portal. There's a clear on Main 1 northbound, and it's for Sounder N Line train 1706 to Everett. Amtrak 518 is supposed to be about 15 minutes behind 1706, but it's very late and that isn't going to happen. After a few days on the water, we arrived to Skagway, Alaska, and have an excursion on the White Pass and Yukon route. Alaska is not connected by land to any of the rail network of the lower 48 or Canada, but does have a few isolated rail lines, arguably the most famous of these being the state-owned Alaska Railroad. The White Pass and Yukon, however, is narrow gauge versus the Alaska's standard gauge, although the White Pass and Yukon slightly predates the Alaska. The original route ran from Skagway through British Columbia and Yukon Territory, 107 miles to Whitehorse. From Carcross, about mile 67.5, to Whitehorse, the line is out of service but mostly remains in place with the option to resume service. We will only briefly cross into Canada, looping back and heading back down towards Skagway.
This is very real narrow gauge railroad, so I'll need everyone's attention for important safety information. During boarding, you may have no stick system. Once the conductor's given me the go-ahead, I'll make an announcement and let everyone know when it's okay to step off. Until that time, we need everyone to remain This is railroad safety.
few minutes for the brakeman and conductor to put down all the steps, and they cannot do so if you're waiting out on those exterior platforms. Also, when you're stepping off the train, just keep in mind that a lot of people find it easier to go down backwards rather than forwards. And if you need any help at all, please do not hesitate to flag down one of our train personnel. Also, keep in mind that this is a very real railroad, as we do not cross over the railroad tracks. If you must get across, please find and use the nearest crossing at Alaskan or Railfanning. And so again, this is our first stop at the depot in downtown Skagway. Or you can stay on board and we will take you back to your ship today. Also, and look around to make sure you have all of your belongings, especially underneath those seats, as that is where your feet usually like to hide. With all that said, thank you for riding with us on the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad, and enjoy the rest of your cruise.
Following the cruise and back on solid ground, we have a whole day to do whatever before having to fly back home, and I decided to spend some time on the BNSF Scenic Sub between Seattle and Everett, and Mukilteo more specifically. This is the western extension of the BNSF Northern Transcon. At Spokane, the Transcon splits into two, to Seattle and Portland. The Portland route tends to get more of the bulk and lower priority traffic, while the Seattle route gets higher priority traffic. When I took the Empire Builder a couple years ago, we took the Seattle route. A little before 3, around the corner comes what I think is HPAC VBT from Tacoma to Vancouver. Later that night, we just happened to be driving towards Mukilteo again, and I saw routes set in both directions. The southbound is Amtrak 519, Cascades from Vancouver. The northbound is a freight, as there are no more Amtrak or Sounder runs this late. It'll also need to clear single track, and I think they'll run it up to the control point at MP 27. Unfortunately, the control point at MP 18 isn't coming in on ATCS, so I don't know what they're doing with the northbound. The other problem is I'm losing sunlight fast. This isn't going to be the prettiest shot you've ever seen, but we'll see what we can do here. At 8:18, I make my way to the station platform, although it's important to note this is not an Amtrak stop. I just want to take advantage of the lights. About this same time, that northbound has shown up as waiting at milepost 27, which is good news. I need to pack for the flight home tomorrow, so I can't exactly hang around all night here. Man, I wish metro stations were this well lit. Anyway, here's southbound Cascades number 519, with an F40 cabbage car leading. Nice touch. We don't see those much in the Midwest anymore. Weird seeing an all Amfleet consist. These trains typically use Horizon cars, but those are still sidelined system-wide due to maintenance issues. I should know fairly quick what BNSF is doing with this northbound. The single track section south of here is only a couple miles long, so it won't take the zippy Amtrak long to clear it. I'd really like to see an indication on 2 here, and nothing. I also see something else coming north. My worst case scenario is that they're going to hold that first northbound for the second one to pass it, and these fears are exacerbated when we get nothing on the control point next to the station. And of course, as soon as I give up and sit down in the car, we get a light. It's an advance approach, meaning whatever this is will be going into the yard at Everett. I'd normally go over to the other side, but being so late at night, I'm not going to do that, so I'll just try and get as far back as I can and use the station lighting to my advantage. This was crude oil. I believe UTIOAWA from Tioga, North Dakota to the BP Cherry Point refinery between Bellingham and Blaine. It uses the easier grades on the Portland line, then comes up north. As soon as that train clears, oh look, an advance approach on 2. That's for the second northbound, another freight. It having a signal this far in advance means it's pretty likely a high priority train, but it's already almost 9 p.m. I decided to stay, so whatever this is will be our finale for the video. Little after 9, they kill the lighting at the station, and wow, is this video gonna suck now. I'm now afraid they're going to kill the rest of the lights. Come on, hurry up. 9:09, it knocks down milepost 27, about a mile and a half south. Come on, station, I just need like 5 more minutes of light. The control point is now a clear on 2. I'm almost wondering if this is a Z. And I'm almost right. This was QSSECHC, not quite a Z, but a quick stacker. Note it does have UPS in the middle, but these are likely empties, as this, again, isn't a Z. I did confirm this was a Q train, as this was the very brief period in time that we had access to a certain tool that shall remain nameless again. It went away a couple days later. And that was my trip. I know this was a little different than a lot of the videos I put up, so hit that thumb if you like it, and maybe you can pay for me to go back to Alaska and shoot the Alaska Railroad. You can follow me a whole bunch of different places, links are down in the video description. Until next time, I'm Tyler, the Central Illinois Railfan, and thank you for watching.